What if one ordinary day, the sky above us held a deadly secret? What if, hidden among the stars, a giant rock was quietly rushing toward Earth, with enough power to wipe out entire cities in a single instant? Would we even stand a chance? Or would this be the day our planet's story came to an end? Welcome back, my friends, to KM's Celestial Journey. Today, we are diving into one of the most chilling what-if scenarios of our time. We're going to explore what might happen if the giant asteroid Apophis, a massive space rock that once terrified scientists and the public alike, were ever to collide with Earth. Now, don't panic. NASA has assured us that for at least the next century, Apophis poses no threat of impact. But in this episode, we'll step into a hypothetical world. We'll imagine, with vivid detail, what would happen if Apophis ignored the calculations, if it veered off course, and came crashing into our fragile blue planet. So buckle up. This is not just a story about space. This is about human survival, the power of nature, and the fragility of life itself. The asteroid that shook the world before it even arrived. Back in the early 2000s, scientists discovered asteroid 99942 Apophis, a massive hunk of rock more than 1,000 feet wide, racing through space on an orbit that crossed paths with Earth. At first, the calculations were terrifying. Some models suggested there was a real chance of collision in the year 2029. Think about that for a moment. A rock bigger than 3 football fields, hurtling toward us at tens of thousands of miles per hour. And the possibility that it could slam directly into Earth was not science fiction. It was on the actual NASA risk list. For weeks, the scientific community scrambled. New observations, improved measurements, refined calculations. Finally, the panic eased. The data revealed that Apophis would indeed come very close, but would safely miss Earth in 2029. In fact, it will pass so close that some satellites may be nearer to it than we are to the asteroid. It will be a once-in-a-lifetime event, but not a destructive one. Still, the question remained. What if? What if Apophis really struck? The impact energy, nature's nuclear bomb. To grasp the sheer power of such an impact, imagine this. If Apophis were to collide with Earth, the energy released would equal 100,000 megatons of TNT. Let that sink in. The largest nuclear bomb ever detonated on Earth, the Tsar Bomba, was about 50 megatons. Apophis would release energy thousands of times greater. We are talking about an explosion capable of flattening cities, shaking continents, and leaving scars that would last for centuries. If it hits land, picture this. Apophis slams into solid ground. The moment it makes contact, an enormous crater, nearly 5 kilometers wide, would tear open. The shockwave would ripple out like a stone dropped in water, but on an unimaginable scale. Buildings for tens, maybe hundreds of kilometers would collapse. Windows would shatter far beyond the immediate zone. Fires would ignite from the intense heat released in the blink of an eye. The ground itself would tremble as if the planet were crying out in pain. A local earthquake would rip through the region, toppling structures that somehow survived the initial blast. And then there would be the skies. A mushroom-like cloud of dust and debris would climb toward the stratosphere, temporarily blotting out the sun in parts of the world. If that strike happened in a densely populated area, say, a major city, the death toll would be unthinkable. Millions of lives could be lost in an instant. If it hits the ocean. But what if Apophis chose the ocean as its target? After all, more than 70% of Earth is covered by water. The result would be no less horrifying. The asteroid would plunge into the sea, instantly vaporizing millions of gallons of water. And then the waves would rise. Not small waves. Not ordinary tsunamis. But walls of water towering over 1,300 feet high, the size of skyscrapers, racing outward from the impact zone. coastal cities thousands of kilometers away could be drowned beneath these mega-tsunamis. Entire nations near the coasts would face devastation. Ports, power plants, airports, highways, all swallowed by the unstoppable force of water. Imagine the panic. Imagine the chaos. For those on distant shores, there would be little time to react. If it explodes in the atmosphere, there's another possibility. Instead of striking land or sea, Apophis might break apart in the atmosphere before reaching the ground. This is what scientists call an airburst. And history has already given us a chilling example. In 1908, over Siberia, something smaller, an asteroid or comet fragment, exploded above the Tunguska region. It didn't even hit the ground. Yet the blast flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of forest. Trees were scorched and knocked down as though a giant hand had swept them aside. Now imagine Apophis doing the same thing on a much bigger scale. The shockwave would shatter windows across cities, throw people off their feet, and ignite fires in every direction. The heat pulse alone could set forests and grasslands ablaze. The global effects. Now let's step back. Would Apophis end all life on Earth? The answer is no. Not quite. Apophis, as massive and destructive as it is, does not compare to the Chicxulub asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. That ancient asteroid was about 10 kilometers wide, 10 times the size of Apophis. Its impact unleashed a global winter that lasted for years, blocking sunlight and collapsing ecosystems. Apophis, by comparison, would cause devastation on a regional scale. Yes, millions could die. Yes, entire countries could face economic ruin. Yes, climate patterns could shift temporarily. But humanity as a species would survive. Civilization, though deeply scarred, would live on. Humanity's defense, could we stop it? Here's where things get interesting. We are no longer helpless. NASA, ESA, and other space agencies have already tested the possibility of deflecting asteroids. In 2022, NASA's DART mission successfully slammed a spacecraft into a small asteroid moon called Dimorphos. The impact actually changed its orbit. It was the first real proof that humans can intentionally alter the path of a celestial body. So if Apophis were on a collision course, would we have options? The answer is yes, but with limits. If we discovered the danger years or decades ahead, we could launch spacecraft to gently nudge it off course. But if we discovered the threat only months in advance, the story would be very different. We would be powerless, and all we could do is prepare for the inevitable. Lessons from the sky. Why does this matter? Why should we care about an asteroid that poses no danger for 100 years? Because Apophis is a wake-up call. It reminds us that Earth is not an isolated island. We live in a cosmic shooting gallery. Every day, thousands of rocks, from tiny meteors to massive asteroids, zip past our planet. Most are harmless. But every so often, one comes close enough to make us sweat. Our ancestors saw comets and fireballs as omens of doom. Today, we see them as reminders of how fragile our world really is. And maybe, just maybe, a reminder that we must invest in planetary defense, in science, in global cooperation. Because the universe is vast, and danger does not respect borders. The human perspective. Imagine the moment when the world learns. Apophis is coming, and this time it will not miss. What would people do? Would we unite, setting aside our differences to fight for survival? Or would fear and chaos tear us apart before the asteroid even arrived? History tells us both are possible. Moments of crisis can bring out the very best and the very worst in humanity. But here's a thought. Perhaps knowing that a rock from space could one day threaten us might teach us something profound. that we, fragile creatures on a small blue planet, need each other more than we realize. Closing thoughts. So what have we learned tonight? We've learned that Apophis will pass by Earth in 2029, closer than our satellites, yet safely. We've learned that if it ever struck, the consequences would be catastrophic, though not civilization-ending. And we've learned that humanity does have a chance, however slim, to defend itself against such threats in the future. The question is not whether Apophis will strike. The question is, when the next threat appears, will we be ready? Thank you for joining me on this journey through space and imagination. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to KM Celestial Journey for more cosmic explorations. Because the universe is full of mysteries, and together, we'll continue uncovering them, one journey at a time. Stay curious, stay inspired, and until next time, keep looking up.